Welcome to Starter TV. I'm Chitra Nabat. Joining us today is Mike Indursky, President of Bliss World. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
It's absolutely my pleasure.
Mike, you are a personal care expert.
That's what they say.
Over 20 years in this industry. Why did you choose this profession?
Well, actually, I didn't choose the profession. I was actually choosing companies. And I was looking at all these different companies. I got out of grad school, and I found this one company called Cheeseboro Ponds. And there was something about the environment that I loved. And what it was that everyone was very unique and different. And I just felt I fit. Every other company, there was a type. You know, there's this homogeneous group of people. But I just found out, like, this company, I just fit in. It didn't matter what the products were. But it turned out it was a personal care company. I was good at it. Next thing you know, 20-something years later, I'm still kind of doing it.
But after Cheeseboro Ponds, why still stay in that industry? Because then you moved on to Unilever, also L'Oreal,
right.
And then now Bliss World. So what is it about this industry that has kept you attracted?
Well, I think what's interesting about it is the beauty industry in particular. It's about making women feel better about themselves. It's fast-moving, it's creative, it's sexy, and you're telling stories, and you can come up with a concept and products, and it's just so much fun. And I was good at it. And I found that whatever business I worked on, I was increasing the business and growing it, and next thing you know, you're there for a long time. And the interesting thing is, when I first went to Cheeseboro, I thought I'd be there for maybe 2 or 3 years. Next thing you know, they're acquired by Unilever. I'm there for about 11 years.
You talk about growing in this industry.
Yeah.
What has made you successful?
I think it's knowing what you're good at and applying yourself to those things. I think that when you grow up, you're kind of taught you should really be good at everything. You know, you go through reviews and you go through performance reviews and such, and they tell you you're great at this, but you're not great at this, so you need to focus on the stuff that you're not great at. And I've always believed that focus on what you're best at and just keep driving that. So being a creative thinker, being really good at strategy and so forth, I focus on those areas I'm good at, get other people to do the other stuff, and that's what makes you thrive.
When you think about, though, being in this industry for over 20 years and being an executive, a senior executive in the public marketplace, have you had mentors or sponsors? I've
had mentors for sure, especially more in the early parts of my career. There's always people who shape you in some ways, but there were 2 in particular at Unilever who really were mentors to me. And as I moved up at Calvin Klein, at L'Oreal, and Burt's Bees, there were definitely people who had major influences on me. But I think when you use the word mentor, it was probably back in my Unilever days. When you talk about those 2 people that they shaped you, how did they shape you? Well, one was nice and supportive, and one was vicious. In all seriousness, they cared about my development. I saw the wisdom that they had. I love the idea that they can take the most complex situations and boil them down to little golden nuggets, and that were simple, because if it's not simple, then you probably don't have a good handle on it. So just this high degree of intellect, savviness. I always kind of respond to people just like kind of savvy and street smart. You're not just sitting up in your little ivory tower, you're actually in the dirt doing things. I kind of like that. So they both had that like really high intellectual level and this practical street savvy level. Many people out there are desperately searching for mentors, whether they're at the junior ranks or mid-level ranks, even some senior people I talk to. How does one go about identifying a mentor and then developing that relationship? I think that, well, in terms of identifying a mentor, it has to be someone who inspires you. There has to be something there that's going to lift you up. I don't think it's enough to say, well, he's successful. There's got to be something innate that you feel, that there's something about that person I want to learn from. And I think it's really good idea to actually approach that person and say, would you be my mentor? Most people would love that. Love that. But people don't ask, so they just kind of stay back. They're intimidated by the level difference. They're intimidated, they're embarrassed. But it's okay to say, I want you to be my mentor. I'd like to spend time with you once a month. Actually, in one of my companies at Burt's Bees, we did have mentorship programs. And I was a mentor for a forecasting guy because there's things that he was impressed about me that he wanted to learn from. So I would spend about once a month with him, taking him through things and finding out what his issues were and how I can get him to a higher level of success.
When you think about talent, more broadly speaking, in the spa and personal care industry, what are the attributes, elements for success that people should have?
Well, definitely passion. For whatever you do, you have to have passion. If you don't have passion, it's like a kiss of death. You know, L'Oreal, when you're getting interviewed there, the first thing they want to hear is, I love beauty. And if you say, I love beauty, you're already in the door, you know? But passion's everything. You know, I always tell there's two types of employees. Employees you have to push, and employees you have to pull back. And I always like the ones you have to pull back. Those are the passionate ones, the ones who want to make things happen, who have energy and have desire and drive. Those are the people you like. So I say passion is one. I would say real intellectual curiosity. People are really interested in what's going on out there. Things fascinate them. They want to understand them. That means that they're a wide thinker, a broad thinker, that they're going to look at things differently. And I think the ability to change. The world is moving so fast. I know it sounds kind of trite, but it is. It's moving faster than ever. And if you're not someone who can really be flexible and change with relative ease, you're going to have a tough time. So take someone who's passionate, high level of intellectual curiosity, ability to change. I mean, those are three things right there. And then, of course, you got to be smart. You want someone who's smart, and you want someone you want to work with and hang out with, because you're going to spend a lot of time with this person.
But when you talk about change and the fact that people have to be very flexible to change, what are ways that people can build that skill or adjust their personality or approach?
It has to come inside. Why am I having a problem with this direction? What is it about the direction? Is it the direction, or is it me? And it requires a high level of self-awareness, because most of the times people can't change their self-imposed restrictions. And what they'll do is they'll mask it as, well, it's a stupid thing that they're doing and this will never work. But it's mostly because they're scared, fear, they like what they're doing, but what you're doing today might not make sense tomorrow. And you have to be able to just, unfortunately, change on a dime. I personally find it thrilling.
When I think about your career, executive ranks, Unilever, L'Oreal, now President of Bliss World, what's the most proudest professional accomplishment you've had?
I think it would be developing the vision for Bliss. Bliss was an amazing, or when it was launched, an amazing concept, and it evolved to a great brand of spas all around the world, and products all around the world. But to take it the next level, to create this vision, to become a lifestyle brand that goes across a wide array of categories, to fulfill people's needs for greater well-being and happiness, that would probably be my greatest accomplishment.
And on the personal front?
My greatest accomplishment? I would say being interviewed by you. I would see that would have to be, this is it. I can go home now, because my greatest accomplishment personally has been this. And
thank you. In addition to that, what is another personal accomplishment?
There's been a lot. Definitely having my kid was first. She's the best. So she'd be my most proud accomplishment. But it's not really an accomplishment, I've put myself in harm's way many times. I've gotten over water fears by surfing and diving and snorkeling and stuff, which doesn't sound like much, but if you have a water fear, it's actually pretty cool. I've boxed, which was very cool to me, boxed professionals. And I think probably winning the Battle of the Bands in North Carolina would be the most proud accomplishment. That was just so much fun. We killed it.
What instrument did you play?
Guitar and lead singer.
So then, is that what you do in your free time?
Absolutely. I play guitar, and I'm probably among the world's greatest karaoke singers. Because karaoke singing isn't just singing. It's about picking the right karaoke song that everyone loves and singing it and performing with such intensity that people want to be by your side.
Maybe that's going to be your next career after Bliss World?
If there's money in it, I probably would be.
Bliss World, tell us, what is Bliss World? What's the growth strategy over the next couple of years?
Bliss World is, it's just the greatest spa company in the world. And what makes us so special was the only company and the only brand that starts with these high efficacy, high performing services and turns them to the most amazing products to make you look and feel beautiful, healthy, and happy. It's an amazing brand. We're in about over 30 countries, in over 3,000 stores. We've got 21 spas, and people come to Bliss because it just makes them feel better about themselves.
But what are some of the specific elements that make it different from everybody else? Because personal care and spas, highly competitive, saturated market.
Absolutely.
What makes Bliss World stand out?
Well, first, our approach to spas is completely different. We turn spas on its head. You know, most spas you go into, you're hearing whale music, you're eating rice cakes, you're looking at this bleach wood. We play R&B music, we have brownies, we have drinks, and we have you know, great look and feel. But the services are just, you know, mind-blowing. I mean, you get a massage at Bliss, you'll say it's the best massage I ever had. And getting a facial, a great facial, to look at your skin afterwards, that every pore is cleaned out, your skin is firmer, younger looking, you feel amazing afterwards. So people come to us, and you know, we serve about 250,000 people a year come to our spas, and they just keep coming back.
How do you keep competitive in your products and services compared to your competitors?
I think it's by always kind of challenging convention still. From a product standpoint, we'll come up with solutions that other people just haven't thought of. You know, one of our best-selling products is a product called Fat Girl Six Pack, which is a product you kind of rub on your stomach and it tightens the skin because it has caffeine and oat kernel extract and all these other things. And no one ever had anything like that. It's a true innovation. And it's our #1 seller, and people from around the world just come to buy this product, especially down in Brazil where they like go crazy, come up to Miami and just buy everything.
When you talk about changing people's behavior, changing human behavior, that's innovation, how do you do that?
By showing them that the reward that they're going to get is worth the change. So no matter what it is, whether it's a, you know, if someone did a pre-brush rinse as opposed to a post-toothbrushing rinse, when that came out years ago, no one ever done that before, but there's a reason for it. There's a benefit for it. Putting whitening strips on your teeth, for instance. Who would ever put a piece of plastic on your teeth for like all this time and take it off? But it's worth it because the benefit is worth it. In our case, you know, people are proud of their stomachs. Women want to have great stomachs. They're going to the beach, they have bare midriff outfits. I want my skin, my stomach to look as tight as possible, so they'll use that. Because I think what happens is, you know, companies talk about innovation. Innovation, innovation, innovation. I would probably say about 98% of innovation is just a new product. Innovation, true innovation, is a dislocation of the market. It's doing something so fundamentally different, about changing consumer behavior. That's what innovation is. So we look at it, what am I doing that no one's done before? You know, I have this saying which people make fun of me at work about. I say, it has to make you nervous. Anything we do has to make you nervous. Then decide, is it good nervous or is it bad nervous? If it's bad nervous, you don't do it. But if it's good nervous, you do it. If it doesn't make you nervous, it's been done already.
You know, you talked about innovation and doing things which make you feel good nervous.
Right.
How does that flow into your actual research and development process for new products?
We get our estheticians and our massage technicians involved at the very beginning because they're the ones who are touching the consumers. You know, they see, as I mentioned, 250,000 people a year, and we have our technicians from around the world, so we get their involvement right away. They're telling us what people's skincare concerns are. We work with them, we develop the products with them, then they test them out. And you can see from them just how strong or how powerful something could be or how it might not be. So we work with them a lot.
How do you attract consumers? Because a lot of people still view spas and personal care as nice to have, not need to have.
Well, in the spa part, if you look at the trends right now, and they're not new trends, it's the trends in well-being and the trends in happiness and this converging of these two trends, people are looking for ways to de-stress, to deal with what's an increasingly more stressful, more challenging life. People are frustrated and challenged by the economy, by the environment, by war and crime, all these things. They can't correct them themselves, so they're searching for happiness. And they're stressed. And that's why more and more people are coming to Bliss. And they realize it's not just a place to put cucumbers on your eyes. It's a place to de-stress, to detox, to clean out your face, to look better so you can go back on the street, go back home and feel fantastic. In fact, one thing we just did to make it even easier, we just started a membership program, which you'd never done before. So you can come every month and get a facial or a massage for $99, and you get all these other benefits. And interestingly, we started the membership in October. We had a goal for 2015. We hit our 2015 goal in December. We hit it last year. The response has been overwhelming because people need a place. You know, it's kind of like, you know, you're on an airplane, and when the oxygen mask comes down and they say, take a breath before you give it to your kids. It's true in life. You're no good to your kids, You're no good to your coworkers, you're no good to your teams if you're not good yourself. You need that time. So come to the spa, take meditation, take yoga, go to the gym. You need to do these things for yourself, because if you don't, you're no good to anybody.
When you think about international expansion, because you're in 30 countries,
Right.
how do you approach that? Local partners, acquisition, organic, how do you work on your international strategy?
Yeah. I've always believed that for a company our size, because we're not a huge Lauder, right, or Procter & Gamble, that it's not about being in the country, it's about being of the country. You need to know that country so well. You know, people talk about Asia. You know, we need to enter Asia. Asia's not a country. It's a continent. And all the countries are very different, and the needs are very different. And to Americans, people might look very similar, but it's very, very different. And we don't see that sometimes. So we try to operate, we meaning business people, try to operate foreign countries from the US, and you fail. We say, let the experts in the countries do it. So we work with distributors who are best-in-class distributors, who know their markets, who know their consumers, and we're them to work through them so they can do what's best for the market, starting with a deep knowledge of our brand.
What are your biggest international opportunities right now?
I would say China, for sure. China, we launched last June. It's been a phenomenal success. In fact, I'm going back there in April, which I'm very excited about. And South Korea's been wonderful for us. We're expanding in Hong Kong and Malaysia and Singapore. We just launched in Philippines. So there's a lot of activity in all those countries. Our biggest next step is going to be in Brazil, and we're very excited about that. It's the #3 beauty market in the world, and so it follows Japan and the US. It's probably going to surpass Japan this year or next year. When it comes to hair care, fragrance, they lead the world. So it's going to be a very interesting market. But of course, all markets have their challenges. Language issues, tax issues, duties issues, registration issues. So that could be a little bit painful and difficult, but we just want to make that consumer happy.
How is spa and personal care consumption, how is it the most different in these international markets when you contrast Asia and those Asian markets compared to a place like Brazil or the United States?
Oh, perfect. If you look at, let's just take face care. And I'm talking about moisturizing cleansers. An average woman might cleanse her face, she might tone afterwards, she'll moisturize, she'll treat a little bit. In a lot of Asian countries, especially Japan, there might be 7 to 12 steps that she does in her routine. You go to Brazil, they view face care very differently. They don't understand some of these brands. They don't understand all these steps. They like more of the pharmaceutical brands. They don't understand the high-end beauty brands that we adore in the States. They see it as more of as a health thing as opposed to a beauty thing. But they see their body as a beauty thing. But they see their face as more of a healthcare thing. So it's very, very different.
What's your process to develop that highly nuanced cultural market intel?
Is to let go of your ego and go right to the experts. So you go into Brazil, you go into the market, you learn the market, and you work with capable distributors and business people who know the market and the needs of the consumer much better than you do. And that's really the key. I've seen so many large companies say, we're going to take our marketing campaign or this or that, we're going to shove it into that country and it's going to work because we're so successful here. Well, look what just happened with Target in Canada. It's not that easy.
Do you find that there are skill gaps in your industry and in your company when looking for talent?
There are definitely skill gaps. I think that when you're working in large companies, it's sometimes hard to adjust to a small company. The speed, the pace, the breadth of responsibilities, that's sometimes for someone from a large company that they struggle with when they come to a smaller company. There's a lot of amenities that you get in a large company. A lot of administrative assistants and research people. A small company, you're doing your own research and you're packing your own boxes. And I've seen people come in and just love it. And I've seen people come in and say, I think I need the deeper shag carpet. And they just don't make it.
Are you telling me that you're packing your own boxes?
When I need to, I pack my own boxes, empty my garage, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
So how do you solve for this skill gap, or it sounds more like a cultural gap? How do you solve for that?
It's about really finding people who fit with your environment and with your values. And that's why in interviews it's so important to really talk about your values and what makes your company tick, and really understand if there's match. Typically in an interview, they'll say it matches. I've always wanted to work in a small company. I love packing my own boxes. But if you ask the right questions, you'll find out. And you can tell. And if you're experienced in doing interviews, your instincts are always right.
So then how do you actually build a learning organization?
You make it part of the everyday work. You have to be mindful of it, that you're talking to people who want to learn, and they're not going to learn, and they're not going to help you if they don't know what they're doing, but they're just doing what you ask them to.
Do you flow that into your performance evaluation process and have objectives around learning?
We do. When we do our objectives, we have the hard objectives and the soft objectives. And the hard objectives are obviously the numbers, the share, and all that other stuff. But the soft objectives are what we're looking at of the employees so they can grow. We're always, though, very forward-thinking about our reviews. A lot of reviews will go into just excruciating detail of all the things that they did last year. And the way we look at reviews is, we're about to enter this new year. Here's the 3 things we need to focus on. Here's the 3 things you need to focus on based on your skills and your competencies. So they're very aware of it. And I always believe that you're only going to remember 3.
How do you demonstrate to your employees that you value learning?
Because we take the time to teach. In a company like ours, which is a wonderful company, but again, it's not a monstrous company, sometimes the gap between levels is larger than would be in other companies. Fewer people, fewer levels. And when you have that, you have responsibility with those people to teach them and help them learn, and not just tell them what to do. Bigger companies, you can tell them what to do and they'll get it. Smaller companies, let me explain to you why we need to do this. What were you thinking when you did it? And really take the time to focus on the learning aspect.
Programs you pay for, formal and informal learning within the organization. How do you actually develop an effective learning plan?
I think it starts with the individual. Now in the company it could be a larger thing, but with the person it starts with the individual. To me, and I always say this, it starts with self-awareness. I think that someone needs to know where they really stand and what they're really good at and what they're not good at. And it's only then that they're going to be ready to learn. Because unfortunately in businesses a lot of people think they know everything. And to have that real understanding. And when I give reviews, people always tell me afterwards, because they know I care about them, I care about their future, I'm thoughtful about what they did, and they open up when you start giving them the feedback, because it's for their own good. I get no enjoyment out of telling someone that they really need to work on their strategic skills or their creative skills. What I try to do is, how do I get them to be even better?
When it comes to financial pressure, oftentimes the learning budget is the one that might be sliced.
Yeah.
What's your philosophy around maintaining a commitment to learning in your organization, and how do you strike that balance?
There's a difference between programs you pay for and true training programs, which we have at our company, and thanks to our parent company, Steiner Leisure, and also the day-to-day responsibility you have with your team. We have almost like a familial environment. I mean, you really care for your people, so we make sure we spend the time doing that. The challenge is when you've got the pressures and your time is ticking, sometimes it's just so much easier to go, just do it. You'll figure it out later. I'll explain it later. And you don't realize you're sending someone off just to do a task instead of having them be part of it and learn from it.
What do you think is the most effective learning method?
It's showing them how and then letting them do it, because the crutch goes away. And it's hard to watch someone do something that you know you can do better, but they're only going to learn if they experience it themselves.
When it comes to actually measuring learning outcomes, how does your company do that?
Through a review process. We do our annual reviews, but we do semi-annual reviews, kind of check-ins, and each manager is encouraged to do their periodic check-in, whether it's once a month or whatever, just to make sure they're on track. It's interesting because the way I look at managing somebody is you have them going down a path, and as soon as they start getting off center, you give them a little taps, and they're kind of imperceptible. You just keep them in the middle of the road and going fast. If they go right to the edge, you have to stop and take them and go like that. And that's when you have that serious sit-down discussion. Hey, we're in the wrong direction. But sometimes the taps are supposed to be imperceptible. But sometimes they're not realizing what you're doing. And sometimes you need to, hey, let me just tell you, you're doing great today. So one thing I would give you a little piece of feedback on, that's a little tap. And make sure they're aware of it, or else they might not benefit by learning.
What's the toughest, most gut-wrenching feedback you've ever received?
Okay, the toughest feedback I ever got was from a subordinate. Someone who worked for me, she was the head of R&D at my previous company, and she said, the funniest thing just happened. You know, we have this new woman, Mary, she came out of your office, and she came to me, she says, I was just in a meeting with Mike, I had no idea what he was talking about. So I explained to her, oh, you'll get used to Mike. This is how Mike works. His mind goes off, and he's going to take you on a journey, and it's a great journey, and you don't know where he's going to go, but at the end of the journey, you're going to get it. And so what I say to you is enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey, but always remember, you're here, he's going to be there. He's going to be so far past you. So she's telling me this as just like a fun anecdote, and I'm crestfallen. I said, are you serious? That's how I come across? She goes, oh, absolutely. So you mean I got to go off? And she said, yeah, people can't follow you. And I was just blown away because no one ever said it that way. And she said it as just for fun. So I became very mindful that I know I think fast, and I know I think not always linearly. Sometimes I'm perfectly linear, sometimes I'm much more circuitous and all over the place, and I'm a creative thinker. So I'm very mindful of that. So if I see myself going into a long, drawn-out story, if I go on, I'll say, I'm going to take you through a little sidestep for a second. Bear with me. So I try to be very mindful of it. But that was the most painful thing, and something I work on to this day. And it's been about 7 years since I've heard that comment. I work on it every day.
How do you work on it?
Just be mindful of it. Because the funny thing is, when it comes to emotions, like I can empathize with you in terms of like, you know, love and hate and pity and sorrow, because those are emotions we all feel. But I don't understand the way you think, because we all think differently, and it's filtered through the way we think. I think we all think the same way, but we don't think the same way. So we do things like Myers-Briggs tests. In my company, we've done true colors, really great ways to understand how people think. And it's given me a lot of insight, but mostly what's made me realize is I don't think like everybody. And not that I'm special, everyone thinks very differently. But if people can't follow me, that's not a good thing. So I'm very, very mindful of it. Now, let's just say I haven't gotten to where I am if I was a complete crazy person, but it's just I do, when I'm like in a creative moment, I can just go off for a while.
When you think about being in the personal care and spa business for over 20 years, what is the most overwhelming observation you've made about men and women and what they need and what they want?
There's always this fundamentals, is that people want to look the best they can. People want to be attractive. It just comes down to people feeling better about themselves. That's always a core thing. A couple of changes that I've seen over 20 years. I don't know why I have to keep rubbing in that I've been doing this for over 20 years, by the way. You make me seem old, just a puppy, as you can tell. Is I think in some ways we've gone from hope in a bottle to truth in a bottle. I think that back in the, the late 80s, early 90s, things were like these mysterious oils from the jungles of here and from the trees of here have come in this beautiful, and there's just a lot of storytelling. Science has caught up to the storytelling. So what you're using now is really powerful, functional, hardworking products. I mean, the products we make at Bliss, clinically proven. You're seeing before and after photos, which would, blow your mind. This stuff is really powerful. Back then, the old days, it was just a story with most of these companies. Now there's real science behind it. That's one big change, going from hope in a bottle to truth in a bottle. The other thing is the health and well-being part of beauty has gone way up. It used to be just about beauty. Health and well-being was never talked about it. I don't think well-being was even in people's vernacular back in 1988 or whatever. But it very much is now, whether it's wellness or well-being, it's very much part of your beauty regimen. The quality of your skin, how you take care of yourself, it's, what you eat. People are detoxing, they're drinking juices, and how it affects their skin. It's all much more holistic than it was before.
Where is this industry going? Is it shifting more to being a lifestyle industry?
The industry is evolving, and I mean, there's so many ways to look at it. I mean, from a retail standpoint, you're just seeing clearly the .com part of the business just growing at an exorbitant rate versus the brick and mortar. In brick and mortar, in a lot of categories, in 2014 was down every month versus 2013. Every month, brick and mortar, but .coms are up. So you've got a fundamental issue going on with your stores. Are your stores going to last in the long run? In some categories, they might not. Right? You've got things like Amazon out there and eBay. What do you need to store for? We have an online part at blissworld.com. What do you need to store for? So there's one thing. Then you look at communications. You know, it used to be, well, if you did your TV, your print, your radio, you're fine. Well, so it's digital now. You're seeing magazines go away. And going back to stores, you're seeing stores go away. Look what happened the last month. Sea Wonder, Kate Spade Saturday, Jack Spade, Piperline, right? Jones, New York, all in the last 2 months. So this is what's happening with stores. This is what's happening with communications. Magazines are disappearing. But they still serve a purpose. The question is, how do you make that purpose resonate with people, address their needs directly? You can't just keep doing what you did, you know? Like I was thinking about 2014, and for a lot of people, 2014 was a hard year. I think 2014 was a wake-up call. I think it's a wake-up call to say, if you do in 15 what you did in 14, and hoping that if the economy gets better, it's going to be a better year, it's a recipe for disaster. You have to look at your business anew and say, am I primed for growth? Am I primed to do amazing things? Or am I doing the same thing this year I did last year and just hoping, you know, that the weather gets better and that the economy gets better? It doesn't work that way.
What makes a good leader?
I think a good leader is someone who is inspiring, someone who's willing to put themselves first in terms of, you truly do need to lead your troops. You know, I believe very much in the upside down org chart where the president's on the bottom and you're helping your team grow. But when you're charging up the hill, the leader's in front. And they're going to be fighting to, you know, as an example for everybody. I have very much of a Teddy Roosevelt thing in my head all the time when it comes to leadership. Be in front of the army, don't stand behind the army. But I think it's about inspiration. I think it's about passion. And, you know, showing that you care about them. You care about them, you care about their development. But, you know, first and foremost, you care about, you know, your vision and make your vision come to life.
Are leaders born or made?
I think there's certainly people who are kind of born with it. I do think there's people just natural born. But I also think that they can be made. You know, and you have to wonder what's preventing them. Sometimes it's just insecurity, and sometimes it's just, again, a lack of self-awareness of who they are. And then when you tell them, hey, you've got all these attributes, you have all these qualities, you know, you can lead. You say, really, I can lead? Yeah. On the flip side, the hard part is people who think they can lead and think they're good leaders and they're not. And that just creates such dysfunction.
How do you lead differently during a crisis?
I once got some great advice by the CEO of Clorox, Don Knaus, and he said, when things are really tough, be easy. When things are really easy, be tough. In a crisis, you have to really take it down. And people look at you. You're on the Jumbotron in the company. When presidents walk around his company, he's on the Jumbotron. They're all watching. If you're walking stressed, pulling your hair out, it'll go right down. So when things are toughest, you have to look calmest, and you have to be nicest. When things are, you know, really easy, come on, guys, let's pick it up.
How have you led during a crisis?
I think I still have most of my hair, so I think I've done okay. I do try to lead by example, and there's going to be some times where you're not at your best.
Tell us about that. What happened?
Not that long ago, I remember I was at a meeting and I got frustrated and I snapped. And you know, it's one of those things where I realized A, it was completely wrong. I apologized profusely to the 3 people in the room. I saw one of them on the street over the weekend. I said, like, I'm really, really sorry. I didn't mean it. And what it came down to was, you know, it's like the old saying, when you point one finger, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. And it was my issue. And I just didn't handle it well. And I had that rare moment. Most people in my company say, oh, he's such a nice guy, he's fun, he's nice, he cares about us, he has a great positive outlook, and they always talk about positivity. Once in a while, sometimes you just don't have it, and you just say something, but I have the maturity and the respect for my team to say, hey, I made a mistake, and I'm sorry, and, forgive me.
And when it comes to people acquisition, is there such thing as the right people?
Yeah, absolutely. People who fit your culture, people who fit your values, absolutely. If someone has different values than you, they'll never, ever fit in the company. Let's say our company, some of our values, some of them are like typical of other company values, hard work, be results oriented. Those are always like the top ones. But be the brand. Can someone really be Bliss and really personify that brand? Positivity, transparency, ability to embrace change. These are things that are true for us that not a lot of companies would say. Positivity? Who cares? To us, it's very important. So if you're interviewing someone who's like Debbie Downer, or a Debbie Don, just so as not to be sexist, it's going to infect the company. It's going to take the people down in a culture where thriving is so important. I remember talking to someone once, and I said, you ever see a box of crabs? He said, when you have a box of crabs, they never get out, because when one starts getting out, one pulls it down. Every time. When one comes up, one pulls it down. And that's what negativity does. It pulls up the people who are trying to aspire. And it kills an organization. So when someone comes in and they interview and they've got this kind of negativity, pessimism, this is not good for business.
How do you hire the right people?
You use the right resources from recruiters and stuff, but I also make sure that I get input from enough people. So if I'm hiring a direct report, I want that person's peers to also interview, because your perspective is different as a leader. The person's looking up to you. They're going to treat you differently. They treat you with much more respect and everything else than they would maybe a peer, and definitely a subordinate. So I want to make sure I get a peer understanding, and not everyone does that. Most people said, well, I'll have this manager be interviewed by 5 VPs. If I'm hiring a VP, I want all the VPs to interview that person, so I can get a really good perspective of this person.
How do you build a collaborative culture?
I think that you start off with, again, having clear vision and clear objectives. But I think one key thing is focusing on alignment versus agreement. And a lot of companies, want everyone to agree. Well, we're not going to agree. It's just not going to happen, right? But we can align. So for instance, let's say we're football players, and I call for a pass play. And you say, but I want a running play. I said, no, but it's going to be a pass play. You go, well, I'm not playing. You have to align. You have to say, I might not agree with the decision, but I'm going to make this thing happen. So making that alignment versus agreement part of your culture helps collaboration. And also, there's other ways we do it at Bliss. We have this, we developed this internal agency. It's a faux agency. It's called Agency B. And what it is if you have a creative problem and you need help, you call the agency. So anyone can join the agency that day, and we brainstorm on fixing the problem. It's department agnostic, level agnostic. It's agnostic of everything. Everyone has an equal say. And that's the best way to build collaboration, because you're not worried about what my boss will say while I'm dipping my toe into their pool. It's all gone. So we all just go, and we found that it's we're at our most creative and our most fun when we have these Agency B meetings, because we collaborate our best.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us today on Starter TV.
You're welcome. It was such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. That was Mike Indursky, President of Bliss World. I'm Chitra Nabat for Starter TV.